Hello, I am Brandi Taylor, founder of Fear It Goes, and I have one question for you today. What's it worth to save that relationship with your spouse? What's it worth to you to have the incredible opportunities with your staff? What's it worth to you to grow your business from almost failure to absolute success? What's it worth for you to find the love in your life? What is it worth to you to make the investment in yourself? Do you stand for you today, or do you take the back seat? That's the question. What's it worth? At feargoes.com/align now method. The adage too about like the way you show up for one thing is the way you show up for all things. I tend to agree to an extent, but not always, because it's amazing how we can compartmentalize certain things and still look like we're showing up. Like, I could be a really great dad, but can't show up in other parts of my life. Or I could have a really strong business, but everything else is failing. Right? So that's not necessarily true about how I show up. Is how I show up for everything? No, because I can be hyper focused on one thing and one thing only, and everything else slides. But when we're aligned, everything opens up, and you're doing it all out of joy, and you're doing it all out of happiness, and you're coming from the space that's overflowing, so you can't help it. Right? When you're showing up as all of you instead of parts of you. And it's so weird, this discussion. Are we recording? Are we starting?
Yeah.
Do you want to
I'll edit all this. I'll edit all the swear words and your collection tactics on your new clients and this part.
No, but actually, I want to talk about her from this space, because I think it's really important to give an example of how this works. So when we're looking at us not being all of us, right? I'm coming from the 50%. We've talked about this before, about coming from, when you're coming from like the 50% of you. But what this really looks like when you're not showing up in your life is this. I won't have that discussion with my husband because maybe I'm holding some resentments, right? I'm holding some judgments and some resentments because I feel like he's not really, he's not being grateful. He's taking me for granted, or she. I'm just using this as an example. So he's taking me for granted. He doesn't see the things that I do. He doesn't even like give me the time of day when it comes to this or that. And I'm holding these resentments. Holding anything is anchoring. It's preventing us from being our full self, right? So instead of coming from that space of, I love myself enough to have this conversation, I have these expectations for myself because I love myself, and that's how I revere myself, right? So when I'm whole, I can allow you to have things going on in your own life without being really upset with you or anything. But I can also say, you know what, sweetheart, I understand that these things have been going on for you. These things are going on for me. And it's important for me, for you to know and recognize this. Or like having the ability to be able to communicate through a loving space instead of a resentment space or a space of judgment changes everything in the way that each person receives that conversation and is able to give to us what we actually need. I can't give you something if I don't know you need it, or if I don't know that this is what helps you stay whole or helps you be happy. And our happiness really, truly does come from within us. Truly comes from within us. So when we hit a point within ourselves where we recognize how to let go, how to come at life full on, this is the thing. When you come at life full on, one, you are jumping out of bed every day with excitement because you are absolutely living on purpose, whatever that looks like to you. Being full, coming at it with all of your power, means that you have opportunities, you have options. It's like having lots and lots of money. You have options. Money doesn't make you great. It amplifies what you are and what you can do, but it gives you options and it's your choice. This is the most beautiful part of being human, is that we have a choice in every single moment of our life. Every single moment we have a choice. And what we do with it is up to us. Do I want to come at this with all of me? And all of me doesn't mean that I'm sitting here judging myself and having all these negative thoughts and all these crazy anchors that are preventing me from being me. Because those aren't you. They're conditioning. They're stories you've told yourself. They're stories, your community has told you that you should believe, or there's a million factors playing in. But that's not you coming at your life fully empowered. It's coming at life with a whole bunch of things keeping you small. And so I have this woman. She is amazing. She's so intelligent and she's such a wonderfully kind soul. She's so beautiful. But she is now at a point where she can't show up in her life. And so when I talk about showing up and coming at life with all of you, without judgment, without apology, you just are you. And so she's struggling right now to show up for clients. She's a brilliant lawyer and she's literally struggling to show up for her clients. She's not getting things in on their deadlines and she's losing clients, and she could lose a very, very big deal right now, which is absolutely not in the best interest of her or the client. So see, we're both losing. Like they are both losing there. No one's winning from holding back, from being small, from being a part of you. No one wins. When I don't show up full on with my kids, and I'm caught in my own crap and I'm stuck in my headspace, and I'm not the nicest person with my kids. I'm not the most forthcoming with being loving and understanding for whatever they're experiencing in that moment, or recognizing that this is their moment to shine, or this is their moment to whatever. It's funny. I was thinking about how we accelerate success, and I'm writing a piece on this for Brandi Taylor with Fear It Goes, and you are watching TVU LinkedIn article. But I was making the reference point to when we're babies. And when you're a baby and you're learning how to walk, everybody is full on present. That mom's there, that dad's there, maybe, that, whoever else is there, and that baby is trying. They're just, giving it their all. They're full on. They're not getting caught in failure and the idea around that. There is none of that. And there is cheerleading squads all around them. Mom, dad, whoever, sisters, siblings, aunties. Yeah, you can do this. They're totally cheering you on every step of the way till you reach the end, the final destination. But somehow along the way, as we've gotten older, we've been taught and conditioned to believe that that's not the way it works anymore. You don't have a cheerleader. You shouldn't celebrate your successes. You should just celebrate only the goal if you get it. And if you don't, well, then you're a major disappointment. And forget about all the things you did to get close to it or to get partway up that ladder. Who cares about those? It's like losing weight. Well, I lost, 10 pounds, but I've got 50 more to go. 10 pounds is huge. This is awesome. You should be jumping up and down, excited, your own cheerleader, or have that person with you in your corner if you're not there yet. But this is what it means to show up for life full on. I get to make these decisions. I get to choose how I want to view this, how I want to bring this. I get to be amazing with my clients, or I get to show up and sort of listen and be half there and imagine what it's like when you really can be all of you. What would that mean? Like, what would that mean for your relationship? What would that mean to your kids and the relationship you carry with them every day forward? What would that mean for your business? and what you actually bring to your clients. Like, holy cow, your clients are like, frick, man, this person's, they're providing the best service, the best product, the best whatever, because they're all in. What gets us to that point of showing up in our lives and making these choices to show up? It really boils down to all of these anchors that you have attached and whether or not you've let them go. And it's funny because you have space to hold so much and then you can't hold anymore. So if you're holding all these anchors, holding all these belief systems that don't work for you, like my client who's not showing up for her clients, she's gained a lot of weight. She's starting to let her like appearance slide. Like hygiene isn't so important anymore. All of these things are kind of her getting to her rock bottom. And it's interesting because rock bottoms for everybody is different. What may be a rock bottom for one might look like that, right? Where life is imploding. Or for another, your rock bottom might be that moment when you look at your life and you're like, it's okay. It's okay. I'm happy-ish. The moment we decide, and this is like the most incredible moment, the moment we decide this is our rock bottom. I can't do this for one more second, not one more second. Something's got to change. Right. So your rock bottom could be very much like this, my client, or your rock bottom could be my life is, it's the okay, it's the happy-ish life. It's the I'm still settling. And what I mean by that is just like money, when I think to myself, oh, I'd like to have this, oh, I'd like to have that, but, every but I put in my way is an anchor. Every time I believe that I am not worth it, I don't deserve it, it shouldn't be mine, that's me being greedy, all of these anchoring thoughts are really linked to certain emotions, but all of them are stopping you from showing up as all of you. Because why shouldn't you have everything? Why should you feel guilty about having a nice car or a nice house or, having lots and lots and lots of money? Why should you feel bad in any way, shape, or form around that? Or because that means you can go out and volunteer. You can go out and you can go out and give money to the hospital because that's what you want to do. Or why do we get these crazy ideas? Because we're conditioned, right? So it's the conditioning that keeps us from really being us. And once you learn how to let go of this, and it's a skill set, this is what I've really, really come to understand. This is a skill set. Everybody can learn, but we have learned another way. We have learned to be limited. We have learned to stop ourselves before we start. We've learned to hold on to a lot of things that don't belong to us and that keep us from really living with our power. And I can say this with the utmost honesty. When you are first discovering your power and what you're really capable of and how you can show up in this world with absolute passion and purpose and feeling lit up and your heart is singing, when you discover that, holy cow, there are moments you're like, whoa, that kind of freaks me out. Like, I can't believe that's me. But it totally is you. It totally is you. And you can be that on, the 10th degree, or you can be that, back here. But it's a choice, and coming at life from choices instead of have tos is very much like I can choose to be upset here, or I can choose not to be, instead of just being reactive and getting upset. And I come from a very reactive history where my whole childhood was very, very reactive. And I brought that forward very much into my adult life because it's what I knew, right? And I think so often about like all those people walking around with these wounds, with their traumas, with with their story of, this thing that happened, or they don't even recognize that these things have happened. But those original meanings that they've placed on stuff that now has stopped them. So I'm looking at another person that is coming on board, and we're working together. And again, beautiful, beautiful person that just wants to give, because we all want to give. And guess what? You can give from absolute ease and 100% flow. So there's no point that you feel like you're being taken for granted or any of the stuff, because you're just giving it, because it's just overflowing from you. It's so easy. But he's such a giver. Oh my God, he's such a giver. And he's so amazing in certain parts of his life. And then other parts he can't receive. So the love he gives out is affronted anytime that he is offered it. Anytime that he's offered it. And it's the weirdest thing to witness. It is, but it's not. It happens all the time. Lots and lots of people are like this because they've got these wounds, right? They've got these experiences, these traumas, these original meanings that were, have these emotional baggage attached to them. And they don't feel somewhere down there that they're lovable, or that they deserve this, or that I should be open to this because someone's going to hurt me. These past experiences, unless we really truly let them go, where they have zero effect. This is Brandi Taylor with Fear It Goes, and you are watching TVU. So if I'm talking about it and I'm emotionally charged in any way, I'm still attached. Unless I can talk about it and it's like, I couldn't care less, and that same situation may come up for me, and it shows up, and then I'm like, no, it's not really for me. I have no interest in this. I have no interest in this relationship, or I have no interest in this behavior. And you can walk away from it with no feelings at all. You have attachments. The conditioning is amazing that we have taken on. So when I said, this is a skill set, the way our brains work, we can access way more. We can have a lot more control over our lives. We can make our lives something absolutely spectacular that really makes your heart sing. And when I say that, I mean, I'm not kidding. My heart sings when I'm working with clients, because I'm so aligned with who I am and how I can share that. And when you're really, really knowing who you are, not all the conditions, not all the stories, not all the experiences that have been hard in your life, because that's not who you are. Who you are is not that. Who you are is when you are in being, when you are not in these crazy thoughts that are pulling you back with the buts, or the who do you think you are, or all the craziness that goes on with that monkey and squirrel. It's conditioning. And I can't help but think this. This is the best question anyone will ever ask you in your life. It will eradicate any questions you have, whether or not this is the right time for you to do something, to make changes for yourself, if you deserve this. I want you to close your eyes for a second and imagine yourself totally open. Okay. This is you just being open. Okay. Close your eyes and imagine what life will look like in 5 years or in 10 years if you do absolutely nothing today. It's the same as today, just moving forward. What does life look like? What does it feel like? And how are you being? That was massively profound for me, because I realized where I was holding myself in my small. And I went, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. Then I want you to close your eyes and think this. What would it look like for you? What would life look like when you're free from all these pains and these struggles and these beliefs that you don't deserve to be spectacular? because you are. What would life actually look like if you let go of all that? If you were willing to let go of all that conditioning that creates the buts that stop you, that tells you that you're not good enough, what would life be like if you showed up as amazing you, the one that's happy? Because happiness is a state of being. So you're happy all the time. What does that mean for your kids? Is it rubbing off on them too? Are they taking cues from you and starting to see that there's other ways to view life and to approach life and to see opportunity? What would this feel like for you to actually let go of all the buts and the shoulds and the could haves and the what ifs and the I should have and all of the crazy talk, all of those conditions, and you weren't in regret anymore? You weren't feeling guilty or shameful, and you actually showed up as your best self, the one that you're super proud of, the one that makes your heart sing, the one that when you're in purpose, you're doing what you love. Because it will always show up. When your heart is singing, you'll know that you're doing things on purpose that are totally aligned with you. You can't help it. What would it look like when you're in these overflowing feelings of awesome? Because that's who you are without the conditioning. This is some beautiful things to ponder, though, right? And it's not this laundry list of, well, the neighbor can have that, or, yeah, but that's not for me, or, but my life is good enough. That's not what I asked you here. I didn't ask you about good enough. What makes us feel like we are more than enough? We have more than enough. We are grateful for more and more and more because we see that that's what we are. And that's what we have the ability to access at any given time.
You know what? I'm with you, and I for most of my life, I have lived in that moment of being and knowing what it's going to look like and feel like, and everything of where I'm going. And as you spoke, these things came back, very very strongly, and I don't abide enough in that
So, what takes you out
vision.
of them?
Well, that's what I want to talk to you about. Is this conditioning? Obviously, it's conditioning, and you point to the things: limited, stopping, holding on. Don't
Oh,
deserve
really? It's
you.
all about holding on.
But you've lived. Yeah, I guess, right. So, but what what conditions us? When I consider my view of the mind and its phenomenological experience, it's almost like bubbles, right? Each moment comes, and the stronger the moment is, the longer it lasts. But they form these
The more
bubbles,
emotional attachment you have. Yep.
and these bubbles form the grand bubble. And the more that you try to go through these thoughts and experiences, they're not necessarily congruent with what the overall thing is. So when you say I'm conditioned, who's conditioning me? You know what I mean? It's like,
Your mind is.
yeah, the
So,
flesh, this protective mind. So
right. So
right.
we've talked about protective mind before and the way that we believe life is.
So it's not an outside conditioning. The outside conditioning is just
Sometimes.
event. It's just
Oh
event,
no.
unless it's
Sometimes it can be.
strategic. People, well, I guess
Sometimes it can be.
it can. Well,
Like,
for sure, for sure.
think about it.
People are
Religion
damaged.
conditions us to believe that if you do certain things, you are going to go to hell and you should be afraid and you should be ashamed and you should feel guilty and all and fear. So absolutely you can have external conditioning. And I just used religion as an example. And trust me, it's not that I think that religion is bad. I think that religion can be used as a tool, weaponized against you or for you. And it's up to you to decide how you choose to use that tool. So if I have a pair of hedge clippers, I can use them the way they're meant to be used. I can use them to cut the clip or clip the hedges and everything looks great and it's wonderful and it's growing well. Or I can go stab someone with them,
Mhm.
right?
But purposed and directed intent to condition people um, has
Hang on a
has
second.
has a
But
diminishing return, and also doesn't have a true landing point in the sense that you can attempt to do these things, but everyone's own experience with the phenomenon of now, they'll absorb it based on their context and how they move forward. So
but there's a lot of unintentional conditioning.
oh
Think
yeah,
about it.
for sure,
So
for sure.
I said I come from a really reactive childhood because there was a lot of stuff going on. My parents didn't want to be bad parents. And actually, I'm really grateful that they were the way they were. And it's not that they were bad. I was saying this to my friend the other day. We were talking about like the levels um, from which, as parents, we move forward. So I looked back when I first started doing real true inner growth. I had to look at my childhood, obviously, because original meanings were all placed there, right? So looked at that. And then I looked at what was life like for my mom, because she was a part of what was happening for me in my childhood. Okay, so this is what happened in her childhood. So you're starting to see patterns, that are moving forward into the next generation. But I also see that she did a lot better than what she had available to her at that time, not only from the experience with my grandmother, and same thing with her. She oh man, her life was super rough. She was, she was a kid in World War II, and there was a lot of craziness, and she lost both parents, and she was in an orphanage, and like it's crazy, right? So, I mean, I look at what she had and what she gave my mom and how that was wounded, but it's also what we have available to us societally. So, we're really fortunate, this generation, myself, my kids, and the kids moving forward, because we have access to a lot of information and we're a lot more open to sharing that information. Whereas, if you looked at 50 years ago, it was not talked about if you were having some mental breakdowns. You just shove that down. You don't talk about that. So conditioning absolutely happens from a space not maliciously, but
Mhm.
it's just what is of the time, right?
That's
It's
those. I think those are the two. I think those are the two very significant things that you talked about today. Was showing up and the
yeah.
magnificent metaphysics that are in mysticism that's required to do that. From my point of view, I understand what you're saying, and then the space of showing up,
Well,
right?
we hold space, right? We hold space for people, we hold space for stuff. We hold, and I mean this on a not physical external surroundings. We hold space for that too, but from an emotional and internal space, we hold space. So if I'm holding on to a lot of anchoring emotions, I don't have the space to rise up. I have to let go of that. Remember before I told you, you can't be in two states at the same time. I cannot be furiously mad and super happy at the same time. One has to give. So in those moments when you experience this, and a ton of parents will have experienced this and they'll laugh at this, when you're in the middle of something with your kid and it's just like supercharged and you're really mad, they've done something or whatever the case is, and then they say something and you can't help but laugh. They totally break that moment from the anger, disarm it, and create a completely different experience in a second, because you can't be in both at the same time. So it literally changes your vibrational state in 1 second. And we can do this when we learn how. When we learn how, that's why I said this is a skill set, and the conditions can be trained out. And then you have access. So I've been watching this guru. Actually, it's funny because I don't believe in worshiping anyone. I not like that. I think that we all can reach these levels of awareness, reach these levels of consciousness, reach these levels of highest state. So I love his message. It aligns with mine. And then there's moments that I'm like, oh, you gleaned something I didn't. Thank you so much for this gift. But I'm listening to him the other day and he's talking about limits. Kind of like what we're talking about today, but he's talking about limits. And this one person asked, well, what's wrong with my life? What, is my life not good enough? And he said, no, it's great. It's whatever you want it to be. It's up to you if you want to live from a limited state or not. And it is. And there's no judgment in that. It's where you're at. It's the same thing with the rock bottom. It's where you're at. There's no judgment of how far you need to go down until you hit that moment where you go, I can't do this for one more second. I know there's more for me. I know that I'm meant for more. Right?
I totally I totally agree.
Limit or not.
We're gonna do it again to the viewers. Bye, viewers, but don't go away. We're gonna continue to visit.
This is Brandi Taylor with Fear It Goes, and you are watching TVU. Hello, I am Brandi Taylor, founder of Fear It Goes, and I have one question for you today. What's it worth to save that relationship with your spouse? What's it worth to you to have the incredible opportunities with your staff? What's it worth to you to grow your business from almost failure to absolute success? What's it worth for you to find the love in your life? What is it worth to you to make the investment in yourself? Do you stand for you today, or do you take the back seat? That's the question. What's it worth? At feargoes.com/align now method. This is Brandi Taylor with Fear It Goes, and you are watching TVU.